Yes, you guys, and how are all of you doing today? I'm Nini FC, this is Blue Lions TV, and welcome to the match preview of our upcoming game tomorrow at 3 PM UK time against Sheffield United. Now, when it comes to our opponents, they need to be respected. They have a brilliant manager in Chris Wilder, and from a tactical point of view, this is going to be a fascinating game because both teams like to do their best work down the flanks. So it's going to be a great battle to see. In today's video, I'm going to break down the press conference, talk about the predicted lineup, talk about our opponents as well as ending by talking about how I think the game is going to play out from a tactical aspect. A lot to delve into, you guys, but before I get into that, today's video is brought to you by the OneFootball app. If you guys want to help me out, download the OneFootball app. You will find it in the link in the description below. It really is the best companion app to have during the middle of a game because you're able to interact, see live scores, updates, etc. So if you guys want this, you'll find the link in the description below. And one more thing, smash that like button, help me get more than 1,500 likes for today's video. Now getting straight into the press conference, and Lamps was asked about our Champions League draw, with him stating that it's definitely not going to be an easy group. Lampard was also asked about whether Mason Mount and Maddison could play together for England, or whether it be another example of a Lampard and Gerrard situation. Lampard rightly said, "I thought we moved on from this," and it gets you thinking, some of these journos really only care about headlines, they don't really understand the actual game. Getting straight into things, Lampard said that he was delighted for Mason because he deserved this England call-up after missing out due to injury. He also confirmed that Mason Mount will be available for the game tomorrow as well. Lampard confirmed that Kennedy could be leaving the club with Bakayoko, and to end on an interesting note, Lampard spoke about how he likes to see extra work in his teams. Now, of course this makes sense. As a player himself, Lampard set himself to a very high standard, and he matched that with hard work, and it's really no surprise that Lampard is going to hold the squad to a high standard of professionalism. Now let's get straight into the predicted lineup for today's video. Of course, Kepa is always going to be in goal, that's something we know already. Christensen and Kurt Zouma will be playing at the back as well, and the reason why I'm going for this is that with Rudiger still waiting to recover and still building his match fitness, it really makes no sense now, especially when it's right before the international break, to start swapping the back four. So I don't think Lampard's going to do this, and of course either side of them is going to be Azpilicueta and Emerson as well. Now for the game tomorrow, I think that Lampard may use a 4-3-3, so I'm expecting to see Jorginho in the base, alongside him will be Cover, and Mason Mount playing as the number 8 as well. Now I do have a reason for this, and if you guys wait a second until I get into the tactical segment for today's video, you're definitely going to understand where my head's at. On the wings, Pulisic and Pedro, and up front I'm expecting Tammy Abraham to keep his place in the team and continue the good form he left off from. I think that Tammy Abraham is the best choice for the game tomorrow because his movement in behind is really going to be crucial when it comes to playing against that back three from Sheffield United. You know that Mason Mount's going to be fit to play tomorrow. Kante's not ready just yet, but I think one player that I'm really going to keep my eye out for is going to be Christian Pulisic. Now his past 2 games, he has been a bit quiet. He hasn't been up to his top form like he was against Liverpool, but for some reason, I'm feeling like Pulisic is going to get a goal in tomorrow's game. Now that's my predicted lineup. Now let's get straight into the tactical side for tomorrow's game. Now before I get into the tactics, I want to briefly talk about Sheffield United's manager Chris Wilder. Chris has implemented a very innovative system that utilises the use of wide centre-backs bombing forward down the flanks to help create overloads. As well as that, they like to play using a possession style of football. Now Chris has built a very impressive CV, having guided 4 clubs to promotion. His philosophy on the game is to keep things simple and not overcomplicate matters. Player expression is definitely allowed. Now that you guys have a brief understanding of who Chris Wilder is, let's find out about the rest of Sheffield United. Now let's get into how Sheffield United like to break down teams, and this is where their wide centre-backs come into effect. Sheffield United are a team that like to build down the flanks, and they like to create overloads down the flanks. What tends to happen is, once the wing-back receives the ball, that's then cue for the wide centre-back to make an overlapping run. Now, I get what you guys might be thinking, Nini, these tactics are a bit crazy, they're a bit too gung-ho, but there's definitely method to this madness. Now, depending where the ball is ball side, instead of having his wingbacks going 1v1, the use of using the wide centre backs creating the overloads creates a lot of very interesting opportunities in the wide areas. Now, as I said before, Sheffield United like to play down the flanks, and one way to create effective opportunities down the flanks is very good rotational play in these areas. The wingback will tuck more in fields, and once that happens, it's then cue for the wide centre back to make that overlapping run in the wide area. This means that out wide, Sheffield United create very good crossing opportunities for the players in the box, because with how they like to play, it's all about getting guys inside the opposition box to create those overloads against the opposition defence. And let me give you guys a demonstration. As I've explained previously, let's say the ball's down the left hand side, Sheffield United are doing their normal tactical things. What tends to happen down the opposite flank is the wide centre back will make that overlapping run into the opposition box, and they'll tend to make run to the far post with the wing back on the opposite side tucking infield as well. Their wide play becomes even more effective because their two strikers tend to drift their runs out wide to help support the play and help with the rotational movement of the ball. Now, due to how they play, it means that there are spaces between the lines in these areas, and this is where the use of their number 10 comes into effect. And really, with Sheffield United's number 10s, they tend to act more as a deep line playmaker, as they can use their guile to create passing options from deep. Now, when it comes to Sheffield United's defensive game, this is where they're quite proactive. Now, Sheffield United likes to use pressing traps, so what that means is, let's say that the opposition have the ball in a certain area, like just above the halfway line, that's when Sheffield United's press is going to kick into effect. And they're also proactive in the sense that if any players do lose the ball, that's going to start another pressing phase. An example of how they like to press the opposition is they like to have their wingbacks being very aggressive, and the wingbacks will actually follow opponents and get very tight, even crossing the halfway line. And once this happens, it's then cue for O'Connell to act as the makeshift fullback in behind, and then what tends to happen is another makeshift back three is formed, with Baldock moving in to form the rest of the back three. And when Sheffield United press, they like to stay very compact because they want to protect the central areas and not get stretched or moved apart. So let's say the ball's down the left hand side, they're going to keep a very compact pressing shape. And as I've been stressing this entire video, they're a team that like to make rotational plays down the flanks. So if you do incorporate a compact pressing shape, it's going to boost your chances of winning the ball in the wide areas to kickstart attacks. Now let's delve even deeper into the tactical segment for tomorrow's game, and I think that one area in which Sheffield United may have the advantage will come down to physicality. However, we have our own advantage, and that's going to be our press resistance and our speed as well, because we're much faster than Sheffield United. Now, to beat Sheffield United, we need to make sure that we control the game in their half. I think that we need to play with speed, but yeah, I don't know, sometimes I feel that we play with no control at times. I feel like we do give away the ball a bit too easily, and I think that too many players are too over exuberant when it comes to moving the ball. Still, the final key aspect in regards to beating Sheffield United is to make sure that we limit and reduce the amount of overloads that their wide centre backs will try to make. Now, with how I see the game going, I'm expecting Sheffield United to use a back five most times during this game. That's because number one, they're playing away from home, and I think at times Sheffield United will be using a low block as well as using a mid block throughout the game tomorrow. I'm expecting Sheffield United to be very compact with their press, as I explained earlier on in the other tactical segment for today's video. Now, when it comes to Sheffield United's press, I'm expecting them to have a very compact shape, and they're going to try and target Azpilicueta down the right hand side because they know that Azpi is the most prone to giving easy possession away of the ball. Now, if we were to use a pivot in midfield, you can see how we may struggle to play out from the back at times. That's because we are getting overloaded in the central areas and we're getting outmanned. And I don't really like the fact that too often we're very quick to pumping long balls away from our area. I think that for a big team, you need to be a lot more composed playing out from the back. But for me, this is why it's crucial that we use a midfield 3 against Sheffield United, because we want to play through their press. Because once we do that, the key aspect of beating them is all this space between the lines. And why is that? Well, that's because we want to disrupt their defensive line. And when you have runners in guys like Pedro, Pulisic and Mason Mount looking to attack the spaces running behind, as well as Tammy Abraham that's very good at occupying central defences, this is going to be key in beating Sheffield United in the game tomorrow. Now, by having 3 players in midfield, this gives passing options to our centre backs, and this way we should be able to beat the press and play through Sheffield United. And that's because the extra man is going to be used to help find space whenever there's times where Sheffield United's press is looking quite good. Once we beat that press, we can start controlling the game in the opposition half, and this is something that I want to see in tomorrow's game. Now, what I want to see is a lot of wide rotations against Sheffield United, and the key aspect in doing this is in the use of our central midfield players. Now, here's exactly how this stuff works. For example, Pulisic will make a run towards the ball calling for it. By doing this, this attracts a Sheffield United player to follow him, and once he follows him, that's then cue for the wide midfield player in either Mason Mount or cover to make his run out wide, and once he does, he holds that position here, and then that's cue for the fullback to bomb forwards and make the overload. And by doing this, you take out the wide midfield player from Sheffield United and the wing back as well. And I think that this is how we need to play against Sheffield United to make sure that they're not able to have their wide central defenders bombing down the flanks. We need to make sure that Sheffield United do react to us. And if we're able to create these types of possibilities throughout the game, then I feel like we will have that advantage against Sheffield United, because for me, deep down, I feel like we're the better team when it comes to playing down the flanks. Now, due to this, my final score prediction for the game tomorrow is a 3-1 win for us. I think that we're not the team right now that's able to keep a clean sheet. I'm expecting us to concede from another header or some type of cross in the box, but due to the nature of how Sheffield United like to play, and due to the players we possess as well, I think that we can get the advantage against them. And on that note, you guys, I'm going to wrap things up and keep things moving. Thank you for watching. I'm NiniFC, this is Blue Lions TV, signing out.